We're going to get into the deadly Michigan church attack now.
Answers after an attack at a Mormon church in Grand Blanc, Michigan. Police say at least 4 people were killed and 8 others injured when an armed man drove his car into a crowded church yesterday on a Sunday and began shooting before setting that church on fire. Police quickly swarmed to the scene. They killed the gunman, but now the questions of why. Investigators are still trying to determine what the motive might.
Yeah, they're waiting for fucking Kash Patel to fly out there and find bullet casings that say, I did this because I'm transgender Antifa. If only. Of course, once again, when it's another MAGA guy, as is the case with the Michigan guy, thoughts and prayers to this heinous attack. Who could have foreseen this? Who could have seen this coming? Okay, first, because the victims were in a church, obviously, people immediately started going with the left. The radical left is attacking churches. You know who's attacking churches in this country? Fucking ICE, man. In my life, I've never encountered a radical leftist that's been like, I am so angry at the fucking church that I'm going to shoot at the church proceeding. That's so stupid. Even the most aggressive r/atheism adjacent dipshit would not take revenge on regular churchgoers. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. It only makes sense if you have designed a permanent victimhood narrative as an evangelical Christian in this goddamn country and you think the left is actually attacking fucking churches or some shit. Virtually all of the church shootings are actually done by white nationalists. Dylan Roof being one of the most famous examples of this. Dylan Roof walked into a black church and shot up the churchgoers. You're only mad at that church if you're also religious? Well, lo and behold, you're not wrong. I don't know what the immediate motive of the suspect is, but given his demographic profile and his psychographic profile, it does seem like he had a lot of smoke as a Protestant MAGA Republican, evangelical Protestant, white supremacist MAGA Republican, and Iraq war veteran. It seems like he thought that Charlie Kirk was like maybe shot by a Mormon, so he wanted to take the anger out on Mormons in general. And what's so crazy about it is that, yes, he sat with them, according to witnesses, victims that survived the incident. He sat with them and asked them if they believe Jesus is their Lord and Savior, if they believe in Joseph Smith or some shit. That's what I saw.
Have been here. They have identified the shooter as Thomas Jacob Sanford, a Marine veteran of the war in Iraq. Ian Lee has made his way to the church and joins us now. Ian, what have we learned?
Good morning. The FBI is leading the investigation into the attack. So far, law enforcement isn't speculating on a motive, though they are treating this as an act of targeted violence. Police warn the death toll could rise.
The active shooter at the church.
What should have been a morning of peaceful prayer in Grand Blanc, Michigan, instead turned into a chaotic and terrifying situation when authorities say they believe a 40-year-old armed man attacked hundreds of parishioners.
He drove his vehicle through the front doors of the church. He then exited his vehicle, firing several rounds at individuals within the church.
According to the ATF, the shooter also appeared to have intentionally set fire to the church, possibly using an accelerant.
I need manpower up here ASAP. I have people trapped in the building.
Grand Blanc's police chief says within...
I thought he was sat in the church and then got back in his car, rammed his vehicle into the church, lit the car on fire, and then shot up a bunch of people. And in the process of like the shooting, the car caught on fire and then the church caught on fire. By the way, I just want to show you the car one more time, which is why they quickly stopped talking about this being a potential radical Antifa left-wing terror. As you can tell, I think, once again, going to be quite difficult for them to present that narrative here. Look at the two massive fucking flags. Seems to me like this is yet another fucking Al-Qaeda incident.
At individuals.
ASAP, I have people trapped in the building.
Grand Blank's police chief says within 30 seconds of receiving the first calls, officers arrived on scene.
They engaged in gunfire with that particular individual, neutralizing that suspect, and that suspect is no longer with us.
10 gunshot victims were
When Burton City Council candidate Chris Johns heard that someone shot churchgoers and burned down the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on September 28th in nearby Grand Blanc, he said not once did he think it was the man he spoke to while canvassing less than a week prior to who went on a tirade against the church and described Mormons as the Antichrist. The man was outgoing, polite, and extremely friendly, John said, and his animosity towards the church didn't seem violent. He said it was very much standard anti-LDS talking points you would find on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. I also dug into this a little bit further and found out that it's actually, do you want to know the most popular religious group in this country is by approval ratings? It's actually Jews. The least popular group, least popular religious group in this country by approval ratings is evangelical Protestants, and then the second least popular is Mormons. Even more, no, not atheists. No, it's evangelical Protestants for obvious reason. And then it's Mormons. I think atheists is like the fourth least popular, actually. Yeah, they have a worse approval rating than Muslims broadly. I don't know where it is. I need to find it again. What obvious reasons? Evangelical Protestant Christianity is seen as a fucking blight in American politics for good reason, because the Republicans greatly highlight some of the most reactionary forces in this country who happen to be evangelical Protestant Christians. That's the reason. They are seen as a part of the in-group. What is this? Kaya portrait for you? Oh my God, this is amazing. Wow. This is beautiful, chatter. Thank you. Yeah, no, it is an extremist evangelical who thinks Mormons are devil worshippers.
taken to the hospital where 2 died. 2 other bodies were later found inside the church.
Yeah, here it is. Americans have a very somewhat favorable opinion of Jews by 35%, mainland Protestants by 30%, Catholics by 34%, evangelical Christians by 28%, atheists by 20%, Muslims by 17%. But if you break it down, here, look. As far as the balance of opinion for favorable versus unfavorable, look at this. The most favorable opinion Americans have is for Jews, and then mainline Protestants are at plus 20. Catholics are at plus 16. Evangelical Christians, I was wrong. Evangelical Christians are at plus 2. I don't know where I got that. I thought evangelical Christians were also roundly criticized and despised. But yeah, the least popular is Mormons. Atheists and Muslims are more popular than... atheists and Muslims are I guess, in a balance of opinion, more popular than Mormons even. Evangelical Christians have the highest unfavorable opinion, though. That's what I meant. This is the chart you probably saw. I mean, this chart is the chart, I think. It surprised me. This chart is a expansion of the chart that I just showed you. How does this correlate with the rise of anti-Semitism? What? I'm not talking about the rise of anti-Semitism. What? There's nothing to do with that. Like, people despise evangelical Christians or have a higher disapproval rating of evangelical Christians than they do of atheists and Muslims. Isn't that crazy? The highest percentage of disapproval rating, the highest disapproval rating percentage is against evangelical Christians, and then atheists, and then Mormons, and then atheists, and then Muslims. Now, this is in 2022. I don't know what the fuck it looks like now. Let's be real. But why are people against evangelical Christians? Again, I'm going to repeat myself one more time. America is not an evangelical Christian country, but America is captive to the mercy of evangelical Christian politics. America is basically at the mercy of evangelical Christians due to the Republican Party. This is the reason why a lot of Americans despise evangelical Christians. Having said that, of course, there are a shit ton of evangelical Christians in the country, and therefore, when it bears itself out on the balance of opinion, they're still at a +2 as opposed to atheists and Muslims, which are -4 for atheists and -5 for Muslims, whereas Mormons have the lowest balance of opinion when you look at the favorability and the unfavorability, where Mormons are at a -10. The highest balance of opinion is for Jews. Not a lot of people have a very or somewhat unfavorable opinion of Jews, but a decent amount of people, the highest percentage of people, have a very / somewhat favorable opinion of Jews. So basically, the U.S. has its own Sunnis versus Shias. For all the hate Muslims get, America is basically the same as any Middle Eastern country at this point. No, I wouldn't. I mean, I didn't realize how much smoke evangelicals had for Mormons. I didn't realize how many people despised Mormons this much, because from my perspective, like, I joke about Mormons all the time, but out of like mainline Christianity, I would say that they're fairly inoffensive. I mean, they're a cult, but I mean, I think the reason why people hate Mormons is because they find it to be they're heretic. They are not mainline. No, I know they're not mainline. I'm Muslim. From my perspective, you're all Christian. I don't make the delineations between Catholicism and Christianity or even Mormons. From my perspective, you're all fucking Christian, okay? Obviously, Mormonism is like relatively new and much different than like the regular versions of Christianity that exist. But someone said Muslims are more Christian than Mormons, to be for real. You're not wrong. That's correct. They view Mormons as heretics. Mormons do not believe in Mary being the mother of God. I mean, there's different there's different subsects of Christianity that also don't believe that. Calling Mormonism Christian is like calling Muslims Christian. Someone already did that. Anytime religion comes up in this chat, everybody gets up in their fucking feelings for what I'm saying. Mormons fought the U.S. Army and tried to establish their own country. They've always been on the shit list. Mormons built an entire religion on being persecuted, and it ended up causing them to literally make up a lot of the shit that gets them hate and people looking at them weird. They shot themselves in the foot. Yeah. This guy's losing his mind. Hasan, please take that back. Catholics are nothing like Mormons, Hasan. Please take this back. You have no idea what you're doing. You can't do this. Catholicism does not equal Mormon. Turks are not Arab. You cannot say these things, Hasan. Hasan, please no. I'm gay, Hasan, my pee-pee hard. Okay. I'm sorry.
Police have identified the deceased suspect as 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford from nearby Burton, Michigan. CBS News has learned that Sanford is a Marine who served from 2004 to 2008 and was deployed as part of Operation Iraqi Freedom. The local police chief commended the bravery of churchgoers who put their lives on the line to protect others during the shooting.
They were shielding the children who were also present within the church, moving them to safety. Just hundreds of people just practicing their faith, just extreme courage, and that's the type of community that we are.
Stories of heroics are already starting to come out. We spoke with a man who helped people flee into the woods. He and his wife also helped some elderly ladies escape in their car as the gunman shot at them. He says they only sustained minor injuries from shattered glass.
Ian Lee, thank you.
On Sunday morning, a madman killed at least 4 people and wounded 8 others at a Michigan Latter-day Saints church. The horror started around 10:30 a.m. when he rammed his Chevy Silverado truck into the building, where hundreds of worshipers had gathered for a Sunday service in Grand Blanc Township. The killer's vehicle had 2 large American flags behind the cab and a set of deer antlers attached to the bumper. He then got out and opened fire with an assault rifle on the congregation and set the church ablaze, causing the entire structure to burn down. So what do we know about the sicko who did this? The suspect's name is...
New York Post can't be serious even for a brief fucking moment, bro. I swear to God. Like, you can't use that professional tone while being like, this sicko that actually did this. Like, it's just, please, man. Please, like, be a normal fucking news outlet for once in your goddamn lives, man.
Thomas Jacob Sanford from nearby Burton, Michigan. He was a 40-year-old Iraq War veteran.
Let's see if they fucking mention his politics.
Who served in the U.S. Marines. A Facebook post by Sanford's mother says the gunman served in Iraq from 2004 to 2008. According to Fox News, he worked as an organizational automotive mechanic and vehicle recovery operator who earned a number of awards for his service and achieved the rank of sergeant. Social media.
Laura Loomer goes on a tirade after the tragic shooting in a Mormon church suggesting violence would link the Muslims and the Muslim Brotherhood. Meanwhile, the shooter has been pictured previously in a Trump t-shirt. The tactic of the fascists to blame Muslims and immigrants reflexively. Remember, when you don't care about the facts, you shape reality according to your agenda and ideology. Yeah. For the record, this is the meta. It's either Muslim or Antifa or trans or, like, depending on what you care about the most, right? Laura Loomer obviously is a massive shill for Israel, and therefore she has everything. She has every interest in basically heightening the tensions and heightening Islamophobia. So she's going to say it's Muslims. A lot of people like Matt Walsh will say it's a trans person. Like, depending on who the conservative person is, know that they're going to lie to you, but just know how they're going to lie to you. It's like the direction of the lie is going to reveal what their personal project is, their pet project is in this instance. And their pet project, the pet project for Laura Loomer, obviously, is Islam. It always has been, and will continue to be. And for many other Republicans, they'll just say, like, for Candace, will tell you it's the Jews. True. Candace Owens will say it's Israel.
Accounts believed to be connected to Sanford reveal he was a family.
I mean, you can fucking tell the dude is definitely a homegrown white boy, though. The way that New York Post is covering it, like the Zach Fox tweet. You feel me? They're literally talking. They're posting it like this dude who just shot up a Mormon church is like the nicest guy you've ever seen.
Man with a wife and a young son. Pictures posted on Facebook show the family smiling, posing in the beds of pickup trucks, or in a field of tall sunflowers. A dormant GoFundMe page from 2015 raised more than $3,000 for the couple's now 10-year-old son, who was born with congenital hyperinsulinism, or CHI, a rare genetic condition in which the pancreas releases too much insulin. As authorities investigate what led Sanford to commit his sickening crime, former Assistant FBI Director Chris Swecker told Fox and Friends First that a motive is already in sight.
The FBI has taken the lead. That means they're treating this as either a hate crime or an act of domestic terrorism. The investigation is is deep into it at this point with regard to motive.
White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt indicated that the gunman targeted the worshipers because of their faith.
Well, from what I understand, based on my conversations with the FBI director, all they know right now is this was an individual who hated people of the Mormon faith. And they are trying to understand more about this, how premeditated it was, how much planning.
Yeah, they were just trying to figure out a way to blame this on fucking Trantifa. Okay? Conservatives lied about a shirt. By the way, they spread a Photoshop blank t-shirt and claimed the Trump thing was Photoshopped. It was immediately disprovable, and they still ran within the Daily Caller. Retracted. Eric Swalwell appears to post Photoshop picture to call church attack suspect MAGA. Retraction notice. After publishing the story, the Daily Caller discovered that the photo shared by Representative Swalwell was the original photo, not the altered version. We deeply regret the error. Do you? Do you deeply regret the error? I don't think you deeply regret the error. Yeah, I saw that too. Every fucking major conservative account immediately fucking ran with the idea that this photo was actually photoshopped. That's what they did. What a stupid and dishonest dichotomy. When this fat, bald R-word decided to do what he did, conservatives didn't come out and say it was deserved. The problem is the action, yes, but the bigger problem, the political ecosystem, is to rationalize and supports violence. First of all, as Brian Krassenstein correctly points out, they certainly did do that for Paul Pelosi. And secondly, it very clearly doesn't matter how many people, myself included, said political violence is unacceptable in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination, because conservatives obviously still went along with the notion that like everyone was celebrating and demanding more of it. They tried to community note your tweet saying it was AI. What are you talking about? Anyway, the problem here in this instance, as it is always the case, is not about political violence only being one directional, even though if you were to look at it as a one-directional thing, you would realize that that direction is not left-wing violence. Here's a great example of this that also took place over the weekend when Axios came out with a report that the Department of Homeland Security itself actually fucking identified. The White House Deputy Press Secretary, sorry. Here it is. The White House Deputy Press Secretary looked at this graph and thought, those gray bars are totally fine. Everyone will understand that only the yellow ones are a problem. Left and right-wing U.S. terrorism attacks, U.S. domestic terrorism attacks. Study, left-wing terrorism climbs to 30-year high. The gray bars are right-wing instances of terror, annually from 1994 to 2025. The yellow bar is what they've declared is left-wing terrorism. Okay? The White House Deputy Press Secretary looked at this graph and thought, those gray bars are totally fine. Everyone will understand that. Only the yellow ones are a problem. And the issue is, as I also called out, Republicans do think that. It's quite remarkable that political polarization and anti-intellectualism has made it so that you can directly stare at a chart that shows that the overwhelming majority of domestic terrorists come from the right, and people will still believe the opposite claim. It's fucking insane. I recall the way that partisanship and anti-intellectualism was actually running amok during the COVID era when COVID first began, and Donald Trump would come out and be like, well, Barack Obama also mishandled the swine flu. Dog, the swine flu killed less people than COVID had at that point. Democrats are supposed to be the ones who actually make this false equivocation, this false equivalency between swine flu and COVID, and say Barack Obama handled swine flu perfectly well, and that's the reason why swine flu didn't kill as many people as COVID is doing. And yet it didn't fucking matter. Nothing matters. Do you understand? Like, Republicans can use a false equivalence that actually doesn't even favor them in the argument, that actually dunks on them as an own just by simply mentioning it as a Republican. That's it. Under normal circumstances, it would be the Democrats that said swine flu killed less than COVID. This would be a false equivalence that the Democrats are using in an insincere manner. Yet Donald Trump literally did that as though somehow this was a way to fucking destroy the Democrat position. Oh. People, please read this comment. People misread the graph thinking the yellow is taller than the gray boxes instead of understanding that the yellow bar sits on top of the gray bar. Please make this clear. Oh, that's why they're misunderstanding it? Yeah, no, that's not the case. Here's an even better version of that graph. Hold on. This. Okay? Figure 4. Left-wing versus right-wing terrorist attacks and plots in the United States from 1994 to 2025. Here's a better fucking graph. Perhaps it's because I know what the truth is that immediately when I saw that graph, I understood exactly what that graph was presenting. But I can understand why people would think that like left-wing violence is more than right-wing in this graph. It doesn't matter though. Abigail Jackson, the fucking White House deputy press secretary, should know better. Ay, ay, ay. I already covered Laura Loomer immediately lying about it. The misinformation environment is tuned up to 11 at this point, and people just like straight up lie instantly after any sort of fucking breaking news story to be first to market.
Went into it, whether he left a note, all of those questions have yet to be answered.
President Trump echoed that sentiment in a Truth Social post, in which he wrote, "This appears to be yet another targeted attack on Christians in the United States. This epidemic of violence in our country must end immediately." A city council candidate has since revealed a disturbing encounter he said he had with Sanford on September 22nd, when he was door-knocking constituents. Chris Johns told the Detroit Free Press that the two chatted for about 20 minutes, with Sanford at one point opening up about his time serving in Iraq as a U.S. Marine and struggling with drug addiction upon returning home. But what started out as a friendly conversation took a sharp turn when the subject of religious faith was brought up and Sanford started ranting against Mormons after revealing he had a relationship with a woman whose family was Mormon when he lived in Utah. It was very much standard anti-LDS talking points that you would find on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, John said, and culminated when Sanford stated that he considered Mormonism the Antichrist. The Burton City Council candidate said he recognized Sanford immediately when his picture was released after the shooting. "There's certain things you don't forget," he said. "This is not a forgettable guy." Sanford died at the scene during a gun battle with a Grand Blanc Township police officer and a Department of Natural Resources officer who responded to the shooting. Cops were on the scene 30 seconds after.
Yeah, also, the main chud talking point is that the shooter donated to Act Blue. These guys are so fucking stupid, okay? He did the same thing with Ryan Ruth. Or no, not the same thing with Ryan Ruth. This is real. Ryan Ruth did donate to Act Blue, but I think he also voted for Donald Trump. But you're wait, what? He donated to Act Blue? What is this link that you just sent me? No, the main conspiracy in this Act Blue, in the Act Blue situation, was that this guy, you sent the wrong one. This is no. Ryan Ruth did donate to Act Blue, but he also voted for Donald Trump. But that's not who we're talking about. Ryan Ruth is the guy who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump and then stabbed himself in the court proceedings like last week. This guy, this is a wrong tweet. The chatter sent me the wrong one. Okay, this guy also had his own Act Blue saga. Conservatives went forward with Act Blue narratives. They said that this guy actually fucking donated to Act Blue and the Democratic Party. It was literally a different guy with the same fucking name. Here it is. And you know what's really sinister about this, for the record? Sanford Thomas J, right? Act Blue, Act Blue, Act Blue. Yeah, that's the wrong fucking guy. And these pieces of shit actually deleted the part. They cut this in a way that shows where in a way that doesn't show where the donations were made. Because if you knew what state the donations were made, you would recognize that this is a different Thomas J. Sanford. Because the Thomas J. Sanford that donated Blue Origin Political Action Committee was doing that donation in Virginia. The Thomas J. Sanford that shot up the church was in Michigan. And he was 100% a Trump supporter, by the way. It's so fucked up. It's so fucked up how much these guys just lie, dude. It is so crazy. Mormon church shooting suspect at Trump sites outside of his home, by the way. Google Maps images show that the suspect was shot dead by the police at Trump sign outside of his Michigan house. You want to know how they tried to fucking make this work, by the way? Here, I'll show you. That's a Trump and Vance sign, okay? Or a Trump Pence sign, or is it a Trump Vance sign? One or the other. Anyway, they tried to claim that this fucking stop sign was actually saying stop Trump, as though this wasn't a regular stop sign on Google Maps. But instead, they were trying to say that he was trying to make a political statement about stop Trump. That's what they tried to fucking claim. I'm so done, dude. I'm so fucking done. People are so insane nowadays, man. They are so fucking stupid. What do you do with these people?
Calls started coming in and took out the suspect in about 8 minutes. Detectives are reportedly probing
he was
whether
wearing
the
the
mass
shirt.
shooting and fire has...
Yeah, he was wearing this shirt on his Facebook. They found it. And then obviously, Republican psychos immediately claimed this was a Photoshop. And then they Photoshopped the shirt without this on it and claimed that was the real shirt. How do we fucking fix this? All you liberals do is cry nonstop and violent as fuck. Oh my God! Yeah, anyway, if you want to see his fucking Facebook, LDS church shooter Thomas Jacob Sanford and his entire family aren't just Trump supporters. They're hardcore MAGA conspiracy lunatics. His Facebook is still up. The thread will be screenshots of their MAGA posts and pictures from Facebook. Kids' faces are grayed out. Anti-masker. This is how the crazy left will go without power. Imagine them with power. Posting Jesse Waters. Posting Turning Point USA. 4 common causes of headaches, loud noises, bright lights, ear infections, arguing with leftists. All aboard the Trump train. That's Brenda Walter Sanford. Join a great group of guys. Lincoln, Teddy, Ike, Reagan, Trump. Here's that famous veteran that went viral. We're not going to be peaceful much longer. Video shows fed up vet. Savaging. Thomas Jacob Sanford and his family didn't just post about Trump and MAGA on their Facebook. They went to rallies and demonstrated, of course. Here's Brenda Walters Sanford. COVID-19 vaccines use aborted fetal tissue. My body, my choice. How can anyone deny he is right wing? Because people are just stupid and biased. There's no other way to explain it. They're just on permanent cope. They're just permanently in a state of copium. Anyway, that's why your commitment to the truth, as with the Charlie Kirk suspect Groyper stuff, was so important. Yeah. I will obviously, even if it's someone who has like left adjacent values or views or whatever in the aftermath of a shooting or anything like that, I'm obviously still going to dive deep into what the actual truth is and try to pick apart all of the partisan misinformation vectors, which unfortunately have become all too common. So much so that people literally now present it on Wall Street Journal and shit like that. It's so fucked up.
A shooting over the weekend. Yes, there was.
Here's the other mass shooting that took place in North Carolina. This was an Iraqi sniper who was shot in the head in a friendly fire incident and had a traumatic brain injury and most likely PTSD as a direct consequence of that incident, who thought LGBT and Jeffrey Epstein was trying to get him to kill himself through coded messages and numbers. Yeah, he thought that LGBT white supremacists were trying to murder him for being straight. Another far-right anti-queer mass shooting this weekend. Late last year, Nigel Max Edge filed a lawsuit alleging that a cabal of LGBT white supremacists and pedophiles were trying to murder him because he's a straight man. The suit was dismissed earlier this summer. Yeah, he rolled up to a North Carolina restaurant on his boat and shot people and killed 3.
There's another mass shooting in this country. This one in Southport, North Carolina. Police say the man pulled up to a dock on a boat and opened fire on a restaurant. 3 people were killed there. 5 others were injured. And once again, we do not know the motive here. Skylar Henry has the story.
We do know the motive. He was just fucking insane.
Coming from a subject on the boat, possibly in the Southport Marina.
A Saturday night out in Southport, North Carolina, turned deadly.
At least 6 people down.
A gunman on a boat, armed with an assault rifle, opened fire on diners at the American Fish Company, a popular pub known for its live music and waterfront views.
Wait, how do you know he was insane? Did you not hear what I just said? He thought that a cabal of elite pedophile LGBTQ white supremacists were trying to communicate to him through coded messages. I think the number that he kept repeating was 122 or something. He would see 122, and that was an indication that this cabal was trying to get him to kill himself. He also was shot in the fucking head. Friendly fire. It seems like he was schizophrenic. Doesn't take much to assume that this is the workings of a schizophrenic person.
Observed a boat sitting out front, which was just odd that he's sitting right there.
Nearby business owner Todd Weaver says he spotted the boat hours before the shooting.
I hunkered against that wall. Everybody else was running out. And I called 911 as fast as I could.
Police allege the suspected shooter is 40-year-old Nigel Edge, a combat veteran with PTSD. Investigators claim Edge fled the scene by boat shortly after 10 p.m. and headed towards Oak Island, a nearby coastal town where he lives. The Coast Guard later arrested Edge at a public ramp. Investigators say it was a targeted and highly premeditated attack. Authorities say many of the victims were there on vacation.
The thread that connects everyone who's a victim in this case to this point just appears to be a love of having a good time and enjoying all that Southport has to offer.
Another leftist anti-fascist, of course. Oh. Better luck next week, I guess, for the FBI. Not that it fucking matters. Obviously, the way that the administration is treating this shit is, oh, well, what are you going to fucking do about it? This is why I get very frustrated with the partisan politics of this kind of stuff, where I say violence is a constant in the American day-to-day existence, and that if you were to look at this from a framework of political violence, it's very clear that like right-wingers are responsible for the large share of political violent incidents and acts of domestic terror. Having said that, this is a constant in the American condition, and there is a higher priority that must be solved here, a higher issue, which is access to weapons, an arsenal of weaponry. That's what the major fucking, that's the major factor here. Okay, the common factor is guns.
American Fish Company, at one point the backdrop for the 2013 film Safe Haven. As for the suspect in this case, Nigel Edge, he is facing numerous charges, including 3 counts of first-degree murder, 5 counts of attempted first-degree murder, and 5 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. Nate.
This morning, after his pressure campaign.
Anyway, yeah, Donald Trump says there's more smoke for others as well. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. Left Gumman is the rhetoric that's causing this. Right Gumman, he was just mental. I know, because the goal here, and it's unfortunate that the Democrats don't realize this or don't even fucking message against this, because they've completely given up on trying to fix any of this shit. But the goal here is very obviously to stamp out any sort of political dissent. And the Republicans are trying to design yet another hysterical narrative. The hysterical narrative here is that leftist Antifa violence is super commonplace. It's happening all the time. We have to put an end to it. We have to put a stop to it. Even though, I think it's like infantile to analyze violence in this country from the perspective of political rhetoric. But even if we were to do so, it's additionally stupid to assume that it's actually the left that's responsible for a large share of the violent political incidents. It's just objectively untrue. It's never been the fucking case. Both of these shootings could most likely be solved with adequate access to mental health treatments and also not allowing people with severe mental illness to have guns. Okay? Would med beds help? Yes, med beds. That's what I meant. I'm implying that med beds would be the ones that would solve this issue. They were veterans, so they were allowed to have them. Veterans are some of the worst people to give weapons to. Let's be real, because a big chunk of them have PTSD and suicidal tendencies. There's a reason why there is the number 22 a day, right? Access to weapons makes it much easier to actually successfully commit suicide. Okay? Who am I even talking to? It doesn't even fucking matter. There's no solution to this shit. Come on, let's be fucking real. Oh. Is back up to more than 22 a day, by the way? Of course. Yeah, 2 mass shootings by Iraq War veterans in one day. People fought so hard to stop that war. Not only because they cared about foreigners, but because wars always come home, says John Schwartz. Ultra-violence like the Iraq War is like a football covered in razor blades, bouncing through history forever in ways no human can foresee. Today is sliced apart 4 people in Michigan and 3 in North Carolina. This is what I tried to present as well. Like, if you normalize ultra-violence of this sort, and you get Americans more comfortable with the idea that the only solution to every single problem is just by fucking killing people, you know, putting bodies in graves, then that violence is inevitably going to come back to the home front. And here we are. Veterans, not all, but 90% of veterans are mission support, but 10% are combat experience. With that, they're exposed to trauma that translates into PTSD. The Iraq War wasn't a war, much like Russia is a military operation. It was and is officially called Operation Enduring Freedom, aka the Iraq invasion. Just a heads up, sir. I don't care. Yeah. And the VA solution to veterans killing themselves with guns is like so... It's tragic comedy. Their solution is, veterans are killing themselves with guns a lot, okay? So here, we'll just give them a fucking gun lock. That's literally their solution. Because when you have a gun lock in a gun safe with photos of your loved ones in said gun safe, the time it takes for you to take the gun out before you fucking kill yourself will allow you to reconsider. That's literally it. That's their solution. Fucking awesome. What a country. Yeah, I'm the one who doesn't give a fuck about veterans, right? Not the American government. Yeah, also, Bill A. Packman leaked, or the New York Post leaked the letter from Charlie Kirk to Netanyahu, which is so fucking gross, by the way. This is going to really piss off people. And the letter itself and the components actually, once again, vindicate me, your boy, Hasan Piker, which is, of course, that which is, of course, that he wasn't actually turning on Israel at all. He was just frustrated about Israel. He was frustrated about the support Israel was losing among the youth, something that Charlie Kirk was seeing. And as an avid supporter of Israel, he was worried about it. This is the letter Charlie sent to Netanyahu in full. This is first published by the New York Post. All 7 pages of the letter are in this post. It essentially falls in line with what we know for sure. Charlie felt that young conservatives were increasingly turning against Israel, and they were doing so rapidly and in large numbers. Charlie wanted to find a way to slow down the exodus. It is important to note that about a month before he was assassinated, Charlie expressed great frustration that he was often harshly criticized by pro-Israel advocates for allowing Tucker Carlson to speak at Turning Point USA events and for going on Tucker Carlson's show, among other things. Once again, I told you all of these things are true, and none of it would conclusively prove that he was about to fucking turn on Israel publicly, and therefore Israel assassinated him. In that interview with Megyn Kelly, both he and she were clear that they were repeatedly told they were anti-Semitic by people who had once supported them for sticking with Tucker and for insisting that Israel should end the war as soon as possible. They believe their years of advocacy for Israel and against Jew hate had earned them some leeway, and they found the rhetoric against them to be highly offensive. Yeah. And also, the reason why he was talking to that rabbi the day prior to his assassination was most likely because he was prepping for the fucking debate, because he knew that I was going to rail him on the Israel shit, for the record. And I tried to tell you guys this, but everybody was so invested in the idea that he was actually going to fucking turn on Israel. Now, of course, this still hurts Israel's PR because they so grossly and so cynically revealed a private correspondence between Charlie Kirk and Benjamin Netanyahu, but that's just how Israel fucking works. And it's not like their opinion could be lower in the eyes of Americans, or maybe their opinion could be lower in the eyes of Americans on the Republican side. So, you know. I mean, the Israel story is the better plot. I mean, it's advantageous for the left, for the Republicans to constantly fucking argue amongst themselves about how this was actually Israel, or how every moment that they spend talking about how this is actually Israel is another moment where people are turning on Israel, so I'll take it. And also another moment where they're not unified in this Trantifa narrative, which is also fucking ridiculous. Anyway. Wow. I just did a rapid fire of like 5 of the most consequential stories of the day, and there's still a shit ton that I didn't get to. Goes to show you take one day off and there's not there's an endless amount of fucking awful shit that you need to cover. Anyway, I'm done for the day. I have a call that I have to take right now. I'm pooped. I will be back tomorrow, and then on Wednesday I will be live from France.